Well, there are basically two issues which are very much concerning for the Turkish public in Syria. One is about the northwest of Syria and the mission that Turkey has overtaken as far as the deconfliction zone in Idlib is concerned. Turkey has overtaken a mission last year in the Sochi conference that it should clear the area from the terrorist groups and also from the heavy weapons, and also would take all the necessary steps for the overtaking of the Syrian government, the control of M4 and M5 main landlines. These didn't happen, and since it didn't happen, this year, unfortunately, the Syrian army, together with the support of the Russian Air Force, has started to advance in Idlib area. This is creating a new situation because it is endangering the security of the civilian people, which amounts to about some 3 million in Idlib area, and this may increase the wave of migration towards Turkey again. This is a very serious development because there are a serious number of terrorist groups who are in the area, and if that kind of a migration wave starts again, Turkey will also get the risk of receiving some of those terrorists together with the civilians, and it is probably going to be very difficult to control and identify who the real civilians and who the terrorists are. So this is the biggest issue, and it is a major problem. The second part of the problem is about the northeast of Syria. In the northeast of Syria, Turkey and the United States have agreed to establish a safe zone, but Recep Tayyip Erdogan has recently declared that if by the end of September this safe zone and the expectations of Turkey are not realized by the Americans, then Turkey will probably take action and probably launch a new military operation towards the east of the Euphrates individually. That is a big risk because Russia, Iran, and the Syrian army, and also the Syrian Democratic Forces in the area are not entirely willing to see Turkey to take action alone. So there is a risk of some serious escalation there. These two issues are the major issues as far as military and the situation on the field are concerned. But of course, it has a very serious implication on the number of refugees that are already in Turkey. Officially, we have some 3.8 million refugees in Turkey, or those who have escaped from the Syrian civil war into Turkey. There's a risk that this figure may rise, and as it rises, I think probably the socioeconomic, demographic, and social difficulties in Turkey will increase because they have already formed a serious challenge to all these issues that I have mentioned. So they are disrupting the harmony of the Turkish civilian society. Recep Tayyip Erdogan has also declared that if there is an increasing pressure on Turkey and if there is a new flow of migrants from Idlib area or from Syria into Turkey, then he challenged the agreement between Turkey and the European Union, and he said that we may also open the borders. Of course, this is a very serious threat to the existing agreement. Since 2015, we had a deal with the European Union, and this deal has been functioning all right for the last 4 years. But there is also a very serious development. The Greek official figures show that the flow of refugees originating from Syria are increasing this year. So that shows that there is some kind of a pressure already being put forth towards the European Union. That is some challenge. But when Recep Tayyip Erdogan mentioned this, I think it was Federica Mogherini who said that the European Union has already given Turkey 5.6 billion euros of credit and assistance. And the original sum was about 6 billion, so there is some 400 million to go. But Mogherini also mentioned that if Turkey is facing some serious problems as far as coping the problem of the refugees is concerned, then the European Union will consider to do more. This is encouraging. I think Turkey has already spent some close to 38 billion US dollars of investment for taking care of the refugees, for health purposes, for education purposes, and all the camps. And that's a big burden. Burden sharing is very important between Turkey and the European Union, but not only European Union, because international displacement of people and migration is a matter of the whole humanity. So these kinds of issues should be tackled in cooperation internationally. I think there are a lot of possibilities, and we have to coordinate with the European Union very seriously how to cope with the potential risk that we may face from Syria.